alarm clock is 1 minute late. But yeah, happy Pride. I'm really excited. I'm really excited for all of the Pride events that are going on this month. This weekend, I'm volunteering at my local Pride Festival, and hopefully I'll be having some new guests on, fingers crossed. And of course, I'll be bringing my girlfriend back on this month. So stay tuned for all of that stuff. Plus, my birthday is this month. So that's cool. I think it's going to be, my girlfriend's birthday is this month. Yeah, so it's going to be a great month with lots of fun things in store and awesome LGBT information to be shared. So yeah, happy Pride. Thank you again to everyone who is tuning in, watching, commenting. As always, you guys can ask any questions or make any comments live right here, or you guys can email me, tweet at me, whatever you like. I'm not picky. If you haven't subscribed to my YouTube already, it's Positive Pussy. My Twitter handle is @PositivePuss. No Y, just @PositivePuss. And my website is positivepussy.live. And that website is also in the description of this video. And on my website, I post resources, my email's on there, and all my past videos. So check it out whenever you can. But right now, let's get into celebrating Pride. So I have a lot of information. I got a little carried away with the history part. So I just wanted to get right into it. So Pride, it's celebrated every year during the month of June, which is this month. And just like most holidays, the history behind it's actually a little bit grim. So I'm going to talk about Christopher Street Liberation Day. So this all started with an event that is referred to as the Stonewall Riots, which occurred on June 28th, 1969. It was the New York City police. They raided the Stonewall Inn, which was a bar in Manhattan. At the time, there was a lot of tension between liberal residents of New York City, especially in Greenwich Village. If you've ever seen Rent, it's like exactly... Well, the Rent was a little bit later in the 90s, but it's like the artist bohemia area of New York. Yeah, it was the late 60s, though. So it was 1969. There were a lot of protests, a lot of activism going on, a lot of anti-war stuff. And one of the movements that was going around was the LGBT movement. And at the time, being out as lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender was just not accepted. The only state that had decriminalized sodomy at the time was Illinois. So 49 states at that time, sodomy was still illegal, even in private homes between two consenting adults. So crazy. But yeah, so in Manhattan, of course, New York, there were some places you could go where you could be open and safe. And Stonewall, the Stonewall Inn, was one of these places. So it was owned by the mafia at the time, which I thought was cool. But so people felt more safe from the police since the police were being paid off by the mafia. And you know that the government is fucked up when the mafia feels safer than the police. But anyway, the police found out that the mafia were making more money off of doing this other illegal thing, so they were upset, and they knew that the bar, most people knew, it had a reputation for being openly gay and lesbian, a gay and lesbian bar, and it was also known for welcoming some of the more marginalized people of the group. So at the time, this was like drag queens, people who were transgender, male prostitutes, and even some homeless youth were known to hang out there. But on June 28th at 1:20 in the morning, the police raided Stonewall. There were undercover cops inside. There were police surrounding the entrances, and there weren't any fire escapes. This was back in the day, which it wasn't that long ago, but there were no fire escapes. So basically everyone inside was trapped. They were the police started trying to arrest people. And they did get some arrests in, but it didn't go as planned because some of the crowd inside resisted. And as they were carrying people out to police cars and carrying like the illegal alcohol and everything out, there were tons of people from the area, from the community who were in the bar, who just crowded around and started watching. So there was tension between the police and the crowd, and the tension escalated, and violence and vandalism eventually broke out. And the mob itself was responsible for throwing burning turning trash cans into the building and burning it down. And 13 people were eventually arrested. Some people in the crowd were hospitalized, and 4 police officers were injured. And the Stonewall Inn at the end of this was completely destroyed and burned. And although the whole event was super unfortunate, it did spark a new kind of activism in the LGBT community. So about a month later on not even a month, a few weeks later, July 4th, 1969, there's this society called the Mattachine. I'm not really sure how to pronounce it, but I'm going to say Mattachine. The Mattachine Society, which was a gay rights organization since 1950, but they performed an annual picketing in front of the Independence Hall in Philadelphia, and it was called the Annual Reminder. Among the organizers of this rally was Craig Rodwell, and he's super important in the LGBT community. If you know anything about LGBT history, you'll know about this guy. But if you've ever seen the movie Milk, you'll know who he is. But he's considered to be one of the leading gay rights activists in the 1960s. And he died only, I think, in like the 2000s, so it wasn't too long ago. But during this rally, the Annual Reminder, Rodwell was encouraging same-sex couples to hold hands during the protest, which is like so tame. But other organizers were trying to keep it more inoffensive, and it's crazy to think about this holding hands as being offensive compared to like what goes down at pride parades today. But the holding hands got the rally the most media coverage it had ever had. So when Rodwell went back to New York City, he decided, well, I'm going to get the attention of the public in a different way. So make more of a statement, do more things like hold hands. So on November 2nd, 1969, Craig Rodwell, it's a hard name to say, Rodwell, and his partners proposed the first Pride March in New York City. And it was to be called Christopher Street Liberation Day because the Stonewall Inn was on Christopher Street. And the event was organized from Rodwell's own apartment, which I thought was cool. He was really, really, dedicated. That's the word. He was really dedicated. He was doing all of this like on his own time. He was an activist, so he really felt for it. Passion. So yeah, this is what they said when they proposed the march. They said that we propose a demonstration to be held annually on the last Saturday in June in New York City to commemorate the 1969 spontaneous demonstrations on Christopher Street. And this demonstration will be called Christopher Street Liberation Day. No dress or age regulations shall be made for this demonstration, and we also propose that we contact homophile organizations throughout the country, so homophile would be just gay friendly, and suggest that they hold parallel demonstrations on that day. We propose a nationwide show of support. Awesome! So the first Christopher Street Liberation Day was held on June 28th, 1970, which was 1 year after the Stonewall riots, and they received their permit for the parade 2 hours before the parade started, so they were cutting it pretty close. But once the parade was in full force, it covered 51 blocks, and it was said to have gone all the way to Central Park. Sorry, my voice is getting scratchy. You guys gotta drink some water. So simultaneous gay parade marches were held in Los Angeles and Chicago in 1970, and these were the first gay pride marches in American history. So yay to everyone who was there. I wish I was there. That would have been the coolest thing. But there were some accounts of people saying that they were seeing all of these people just be out and be themselves, women holding hands with other women and men dressed as women, and all of these amazing accounts that I was reading on the internet. I was going to write some, but there's just so much. But anyway, simultaneous gay marches were also held in 1971, so the year after, in Boston, Dallas, Milwaukee, London, Paris, West Berlin, and Stockholm. So it was becoming worldwide after the second year. And then by 1972, so this would be the third year, there were marches in Atlanta, Buffalo, Detroit, Washington, D.C., Miami, Minneapolis, I can never say that name, Philadelphia, and San Francisco. Now, to be fair, San Francisco did have like a thing sort of a parade or a rally or something. I forgot what it was called. It said something like Gay Day or something. I don't know why it was called that, but it was held in 1970, so they were doing stuff. They just weren't doing the Christopher Street Liberation Day parade with everybody simultaneously, But nowadays, almost every major city has a parade, and I actually will be posting a link to a bunch of events that you can look up what events are in your city, because tons of places are doing stuff now, and I'm really excited to go to my local ones. But anyway, we also have a woman named Brenda Howard to thank for the month of Pride. She was one of the coordinators of the first march, and she is the coolest lady ever. Her Wikipedia literally describes her as a bisexual rights activist, super cool, sex-positive feminist, yes, polyamorous, and BDSM practitioner. Her Wikipedia says BDSM practitioner. That's amazing. I love it. This is what I want to be when I grow up. But anyway, she was known as the mother of Pride for her idea for a week's worth of Pride events that centered around the main event, which was the march. So yeah, she's cool. The term gay pride was coined in 1970 by L. Craig Schoonmaker. I like that last name a lot. But he was also a parade organizer. They were using gay power before they figured out gay pride. And then it was just lack of a better phrase. And Schoonmaker was like, well, let's use the term gay pride. And everyone was like, yes. And in a 2015 interview, this is really amazing. He said, people did not have the power back then. Even now, we only have some. But anyone can have pride in themselves, and that would make them happier as people and produce a movement more likely to produce change. So I think it's really awesome that they changed it to gay pride, and I think it really does. Or like nowadays we say LGBT pride, because it really does like exemplify exactly what we're trying to do, which is to tell people, you should be proud of who you are. So Pride now is a worldwide celebration of being proud of who you are, being happy with who you are, not judging others for who they are, and celebrating these differences and similarities between all of us. And there are lots of ways that you can celebrate and help spread the word. The easiest is on social media. That's the easiest way. You don't have to move except for your fingers. So if you're interested in doing some hashtags, I've already done some on my Twitter @PositivePuss. But the hashtags are #Pride, #2018, #LoveIsLove, #LoveWins, and #PrideParade, which I'll post these on my website, but you can post them in 15 languages, and it unlocks a cute little pride emoji. So that's super cool. So yeah, that's a little bit of the history of the Pride Parade. And don't worry if you are a history nerd. Oh, I touched the microphone. I'm so sorry, you guys. I hope you didn't hear it. If you love history like me, there's so much LGBT history, so I couldn't possibly cover all of it, even if I did talk for a month. But I'll do a little bit of history throughout the month. But right now, I wanted to go into some science information about sexuality and gender. I like science too. Don't worry. I'm a big fan of science and facts. So first off, I wanted to talk about the Kinsey scale. So created by Dr. Alfred Kinsey, which I mentioned him in my one of my masturbation videos. He did a lot of research on human sexual behavior, and he developed a tool called the Kinsey scale, and it determines one's sexuality. So the scale ranges from, my phone's asleep, sorry. Whew. Put that there. Okay, so the Kinsey scale. It ranges from 0, which is completely heterosexual, to 6, which would be completely homosexual. Well, exclusively homosexual or exclusively heterosexual. But there are 9 levels of human sexuality. So you could be 0, which would be exclusively hetero, from 1 to 2 to 3, which is equally heterosexual and homosexual. And then there's 4, 5, and then 6 is exclusively homosexual. So 1 and 2 and 4 and 5 are things that are in the middle of hetero or homosexual and bisexuality. So they use the term incidentally homosexual for number one. So like if you had a level 1, you're mostly heterosexual. So you mostly like people of the opposite sex, but sometimes you go to the same sex. And then 2 would be more than incidentally. So you go to the same sex more often than every once in a while. And 3 is like completely equal. So any number on this scale, because it's a continuous scale, you could literally be like 2.7643. And so like you're in between being a little bit more homosexual than 2 or than 1, but not quite completely bisexual. So literally any number on there is possible. Obviously, you're not going to go into your brain and calculate, like I am 2.67 on the Kinsey scale. So that means that I like girls, but only sometimes. Like, no, it's not like that. But it does give a really good idea of all the different kinds of sexuality. It's the first acknowledgement, actually, of the diversity and fluidity of human sexual behavior. Kinsey found that sexuality does not fall exclusively into 2 categories of heterosexual or homosexual. And before this, homosexuality was like on par with disease at like back in the day. He produced these in the 50s and 60s. So before then, people were trying to cure it. And even now, I mean, crazy people are trying to cure it, but we know now the facts. But he shed much needed light on the studies of sexuality. In his first book, he said, "The living world is a continuum in each and every one of its aspects." So just like sexuality, gender expression is also on a spectrum. And now we know there are a lot of different spectrums, and I would argue like everything is on a spectrum, like personality, all of these things. But anyway, I'm going on a tangent. So yes, gender expression is on a spectrum, ranges from masculine to feminine. I think there is probably a little bit more nuances in that one, but gender expression and sex are not the same thing. Gender expression is how we present our gender in the world. Depends heavily on the society, culture, community, and your family, how these institutions see gender roles, and how these institutions interact with different genders. So what's typically masculine in America might not be seen as the same thing as typically masculine in Japan or France. So this is why this really depends on where you are and what time you live in and all of that. So gender identity is different from gender expression. Gender identity is the gender you feel internally. So it's not masculine or feminine, how you appear or express yourself. It's male, female, or both, or neither. So it's regardless of how you look on the outside. It's the internal knowledge of yourself as what gender you are. Sex refers to the literal chromosomes in your body. So XX or XY, XX being female, XY being male. And so all of these 3 things are different. And even chromosomes are on, I would say, a spectrum, because there are differences in sex chromosomes and what can happen. And some produce negative outcomes in, I don't want to use too much science terms, but phenotypically it comes out a little bit different. And so, but yeah, everything is on a spectrum, and gender identity, gender expression, and sex are all of these things that could happen on any point in the continuum. So I know that this is a little bit confusing sometimes, and there's an an awesome possum website called genderspectrum.com, and it has lots of information for youth, parents, and everyone in between, the whole spectrum of people. And if you want a more entertaining explanation, Bill Nye Saves the World does an episode on it. It's very good and very funny, and he kind of dumbs it down. So if it's confusing, it might be helpful to watch Bill Nye. And everyone loves Bill Nye. But yeah, so there's the genderspectrum.com. I'll post a link to it. It's a really good website. And then if you want, you can watch Bill Nye Saves the World. I mean, why not? So why is all of this stuff important? The LGBT and extended community represents the marginalized and underrepresented sexualities and genders in society. So it's been a community for people who have been denied these places in the past. So what does LGBT mean? The acronym LGBT stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. Lesbian obviously sorry if it's not obvious, I'm so sorry. Lesbian describes a woman who is attracted to other women, emotional or romantic, or physical attraction. Gay is used to describe a man who's enduring physical, romantic, and or emotional attraction to other men. Gay can also refer to lesbians. It's sometimes an umbrella term. Bisexual describes an individual who is physically or emotionally attracted to both men and women. And transgender is an umbrella term for people whose gender identity or their gender expression differs from the sex that they were assigned at birth. So it's more of an umbrella term to describe what the other letters kind of get more specific on. So you've heard me say LGBT and extended, and the extended letters are just an attempt to include the whole spectrum of sexualities and genders. So the other letters that are oftentimes used are Q, I, P, and A. The Q can stand for questioning and queer or queer. Questioning is individuals who are just unsure of their sexual orientation or their gender identity. Queer is also an umbrella term encompassing a variety of sexual orientations and identities. It used to be more of like a derogatory term, but I think that the groups have taken it back and they use it now to just describe something similar to questioning, just a variety of just sexual orientations and identities. So I lost my place. I stands for intersex. So this is also, this covers people with differences in sexual development. So people with diagnosable differences in chromosomes or genital development. I think that's self-explanatory. P stands for pansexual. So pansexual is not to be confused with bisexual. And I don't know why this is such a nuance, but bisexual is someone who's attracted to men and women. Pansexual refers to individuals who can be attracted to all genders and all identities. So it's supposed to include transgender and intersex people. So I would say, like, I guess if I had to pick one, I would say pansexual, because I wouldn't discriminate on someone if they were transgender and I was attracted to them. Like, I would still be attracted to them if I found out they were so it's like a weird nuance, but that's what that nuance is. A stands for asexual. So asexual refers to individuals who do not feel sexual attraction to others or don't have the desire to have partnered sex. It's not celibacy, because celibacy is a choice to abstain from sex. Asexuality is more of the absence of the sexual attraction. So whether you identify with one or none of these letters, it's important to celebrate Pride. And we should just be accepting of everyone, no matter what letter of the alphabet they decide to put in their community or on their selves as a label or whatever. Just be accepting of everyone no matter what. And this is really important. And I think this is what Pride is really about, is just like this acceptance of the spectrum, because people find, or studies find, that the stress that's associated with living with societal and gender sexuality expectations can put young LGBT people at risk for negative health outcomes. Research shows that living in non-accepting environments, these LGBT youth are more likely to attempt suicide, experience homelessness, turn to illegal drug use. It can contribute to anxiety, depression, feelings of isolation in these young people. And they're also at higher risk physical, psychological, and sexual abuse. 1 in 2 transgender individuals will experience a sexual violence in their lives, that's literally half, you guys. Like this, it's important for us to see that these people like have a place in society and the world, and we need to accept them and take care of them. And I think that pride is important because it reminds these individuals that you're not alone, that you are normal, your feelings are valid, and hopefully things can get better. And so I think we should just celebrate humans and have pride in who you are and who you love. So that's it for me. I went like 25 minutes. It wasn't too long. Sorry, everybody. Thank you for sticking with me. You guys can always comment if you have any questions or you wanted to correct me. I'm not super versed on all of the nuances. I haven't really been submerged in the community that much. But I'm hoping to change that and get more involved. Like I said, I'm really excited for this weekend to volunteer at my pride events, my local pride events, and meet people and make friends and hopefully find my place in the community. So in the coming weeks, I'm going to be covering more history, more facts, and tips on being an ally. So if you don't identify with any of those LGBTQIA or P, then I'll give you tips on how to be an ally to these people or to everybody. I'll be talking about my own journey and my place in the community, and hopefully I will be having some guests on. But in the meantime, go enjoy Pride Month, celebrate, use a hashtag, go to your local parade. I'm really excited. Like I said, I'm so excited to volunteer. So I'm going to post the list of the Pride events at the gaypridecalendar.com. And the last thing I wanted to mention was the LGBT National Youth Talk Line. They provide peer support, health and sexuality information for queer youth, 25 and under. They have a phone number. It's toll-free, 1-800-246-7743. And I'll post a link to the website, and it has the number on there. So thank you again to everyone for watching, listening. As always, you can check out my website, subscribe, tweet at me, and email me, whatever. So I'd love to share stories from people in the LGBT community. So if you want, you can email me with any stories or whatever, comments or whatever. I would love to share and hear about it. So I'll keep things anonymous and stuff. But yeah, go to my website and email me. I haven't been getting any emails lately. It's making me sad. But yeah, so go out there, love everybody, and happy Pride. And yeah. I am me out of here, pussies. See you next time.